Good morning or afternoon or evening, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Alex Belisario. I'm the Senior Director for College Student Life here at Crown and Merrell Colleges. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I am going to be your host for today's session. We're so happy to have you joining us today. Next slide, please, Jordan. As we get ready to talk to you all for this friends and family session, want to make the note that we're recording the session for folks who won't be able to join us today, and then we'll be posting that later online. So if you're not necessarily wanting to make your worldwide debut on this family orientation session, you'll want to turn your video off. And then if you want to go to the next slide, Jordan, we're going to share our land acknowledgement. This is often what we do as we start large events to keep it in our minds and in our consciousness, the fact that the land that our campus sits on, even when we're not all here necessarily together in person, is not ours by origin.
My name is Dr. Rebecca Hernandez. I am the director of the UCSC American Indian Resource Center. It is my privilege to share the land acknowledgement with you today. UC Santa Cruz is located on the unceded territory of the Awaswa-speaking Yupi tribe. The Amamutsan tribal band, comprised of the descendants of indigenous people taken to missions Santa Cruz and San Juan Bautista during Spanish colonization of the Central Coast, is today working hard to restore traditional stewardship practices on these lands and heal from historical trauma.
Thanks, Jordan. I want to advance the slide. So to begin, we're going to introduce all of the fabulous staff who are here with us today. And I'll just call your first name if you want to do your introduction after that. So Beth, you're in my top left corner.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. My name is Beth Truax Armstrong, she, hers, and I am one of the Crown Academic Advisors.
Thanks, Beth. Maya.
Hello, my name is Maya Hernandez. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Crown College Programs Coordinator.
Manel.
Hello, everybody. My name is Manel Camps. I serve as Provost of Crown College. I've been doing so for about 6 years. I'm also professor in microbiology and environmental toxicology. And the provost is the person who leads the academic mission of the college. And I'm going to be talking about this a little bit more in a few minutes. And we also are responsible for the academic advising side of the college. Thank you.
Thanks, Manel. Chris.
Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Flores. I use he, him, his pronouns. I'm one of the coordinators for residential education here at Crown and Merrell, and I'll go over what that role is later on in this presentation.
Thanks, Chris. Jordan.
Hi, I'm Jordan. I am part of the Crown Merrell events staff, and I'm also a upcoming fourth year student.
Hello, I'm Cassie Isaacson. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a Merrell College Academic Advisor. I think you're muted, Alex.
Funny, I wonder how that happened. And Katie.
Hello, I'm the event staff manager, and yeah, that's all.
Awesome. So yeah, there's a lot of moving parts to this session, and Katie and Jordan are very capable and extremely helpful tech people, so they're going to help to keep us on track. We'd also like to know a little bit about you before we get started on all of our information. So if you could, using the chat function, can you let us know where you're zooming in from today? Excellent. See lots of Californias. In the last session, we had someone from Spain. Oh, Philippines. Awesome, awesome. And then if there are any students in the Zoom room today, will you use the raise hand function to indicate that you're here? Excellent. Yeah, that's a good number of students. And so just to be sure that we're clarifying what we're doing here, like this session is to help family and friends to get a sense for Crown and Merrell colleges and UCSC and help to prepare. And we're happy to have the students here, but the students are also doing an orientation course online that Manel will talk a little bit about. So just so we know that we have, but we're glad that everybody's here and are happy to answer questions. Feel free to put questions along the way in the chat, and we have folks who will be doing their best to answer. Once in a while with a large crowd, the questions will come a little bit faster than we're able to address. So just hang tight. And then after we do our presentation, we're going to have plenty of time after that for questions and answers. And we'll be happy to repeat questions and hopefully get to the stuff that you have going on. So next slide. Also in the chat, if you could share with us your thoughts about how you are feeling about your student attending UCSC. Often when we're in person, we'll do an icebreaker where people can like stand together and say like, I'm feeling stressed or I'm excited or different things like that. So we're trying to get a sense. Looks like some nervous and some excited and nervous. That's awesome. And sluggish. We do really love our slug and slime puns as we go along. So thank you for including that. That's awesome. Okay. Also, as we get started, we know that coming into this year, lots of us have been experiencing all kinds of anxiety and or trauma, if it's related to COVID, if you're local or not even local, but if you've been affected by wildfires, if you have been feeling the stress and anxiety about the way of the world and racial injustice and all sorts of things that are affecting us, we're feeling that too. And we have been missing having people with us on campus. We've had some people, but it's been a lot smaller in the last year and a half. And so we're looking forward to that. But we, I think, probably share the excitement and the anxiousness about this. And so we are doing our best to plan for lots of possibilities. And we're also excited to talk to you about Crown and Merrell and UCSC because this place is really awesome. So next slide. So here's what we're going to be covering in our session today. We're going to talk about the colleges and the college system and why the colleges are so awesome. We're going to give you an introduction to academic life and an introduction to student life, and then some helpful information before your arrival. So to help you prepare for this transition and your students' transition. And then there's so many questions and offices on campus that can be here to help you. Next slide. Some of the things we won't be covering today because there are offices who are much better at it and have a lot more information for you to know would be around financial aid, transportation, campus security, and health center, because we know a lot of questions usually come up about insurance and different things like that. That's not really our area of expertise. So we would refer you to those offices to talk to them about questions, and particularly if you have specific questions, they'll be the most helpful. Okay, so Manel, want to talk about the colleges?
Yes, so UCSC is really unique in that it has colleges that are not only residential, but also academic. And that essentially gives students the best of both worlds. They have an intellectual community that's small, and at the same time, they have the advantages of having a research university that's large. The other thing is that this is a place where we can sponsor and enhance cross-disciplinary or foundational skills. And in today's job market, this is becoming more and more increasingly more important. Also, this is the foundation for a successful academic career in their majors even, because these skills are universal. So some examples are critical thinking, communication, leadership. And we have a class that all Freshmen take that's called Core. They take it in the fall. And this is sort of the landing pad for our students. It starts getting them down the path of these fundamental skills, and at the same time, it provides them with small sections where they can meet other students, work on group projects with even fewer group of students, and also meet personally an instructor. And that personal bond with an instructor, especially as you start out, is super important. Once you've done with Core, the colleges offer other opportunities, continuing to work on fundamental skills. Crown focuses a lot on entrepreneurship. Merrell has a lot of service learning in the community. They also have an international program. So yeah, that's essentially the idea, that we're sort of a small community inside the bigger university.
Excellent. Thanks, Manel. Beth, Cassie, want to take it away?
Definitely. So academic life here at UC Santa Cruz, we function a little bit differently than some other universities. We do have the colleges, like Manel talked about. You have these small home bases that you have here on this campus, but we do have majors located within the departments. So not only do you have advisors here at your colleges, here at Crown and Merrell, like Cassie and I, but you also have major advisors in those departments, and they can help more with those upper division classes, looking into research opportunities, internships. You and your students will work more with us in the first couple of years, but as they progress through their courses, they will begin to work more with those major advisors. Some things I want to highlight for things you might want to keep in mind for that first year. Right now, really just getting settled for the fall, getting that schedule settled. I know most of you guys registered this week, but you might be ready to make some tweaks to that schedule. You're able to make those tweaks on August 9th. And but right now, we just really want you to focus on that. We know a lot of times you guys want to go into this long-term planning, look at your 4-year goals, and we definitely want to help you with that. But right now we need to focus on just getting you prepared for the fall. Once you're here and you're comfortable and our wonderful Crown and Merrell staff has welcomed you and got you in these really great events, then that becomes a better time for us to focus on that. And I'm trying to think, there was something else I was thinking would be another good thing to mention to you all. Oh, and just getting involved in your major and clubs. So not only is Maya going to tell you about great opportunities here at the college, but also I would recommend getting involved within your major in different clubs or opportunities from the very beginning. It's just really going to help you feel connected, not only here at Crown, but outside of that as well. Next slide, please.
Yeah, so in addition to what Beth just shared and suggested, I want to share with you a couple other pieces of advice. One, get to know your advisors. So we're your college advisors. I'm one of your Merrell advisors. Beth is one of the Crown advisors. If your student doesn't yet know who their college advisors are, urge them to look up our website, figure out who we are, and meet with us. We would specifically recommend that you try to meet with us within your first quarter. So during fall, if not before, you can even meet with us in the summer. And then the second thing is, check your emails, check your UCSC emails specifically. Daily, maybe, I would recommend, because lots of good information is going to come not only from housing, not only from programs, but from advising. And sometimes we have really important information, or we invite you to come meet with us, or lots of good stuff. So if you're a student, be checking your email. If you're a family member, a loved one, encourage your folks to check their UCSC emails. Here's a quick rundown of who the Crown and Merrell College advising teams is and how to meet with us and how to contact us. Please, please be in touch with us. We really want to get to know you all and support you.
Excellent. Thanks, Beth and Cassie. the next slide, we're going to have another chance for you to contribute in the chat and tell us a little bit about what's exciting you most about the colleges, like these two colleges in specific, or even the UCSC experience. And while you're entering that into the chat, Elizabeth, you want to introduce yourself?
Sorry, I'm late. My name is Elizabeth Abrams. I'm the provost at Merrell College. I have been provost here for 9 years, so I'm entering my 10th year. I'm also a member of the writing program, so I'm an active faculty member in one of the departments. And yeah, that's me.
Excellent. Thanks, Elizabeth. Next slide. So I noticed that a lot of you are talking about wanting to be or getting excited about moving on campus or meeting new people and doing things. And so some of our student life staff are going to talk about what we have planned for you on your arrival. Maya, you want to go first?
I can go first, sure. Welcome everyone. My name is Maya Hernandez. I'm the Crown College Programs Coordinator, and the college programs offices are charged with helping all of our college affiliates, regardless of where they are physically, feel welcomed and have a sense of community at their home here, at their affiliated colleges. So for Welcome Week, it starts actually kind of the night before you move in. We're gonna have some welcome events and just some open forums for folks to get connected and ask last minute questions. But the moment you move on to campus is when Welcome Week starts. And a lot of great things we are planning are speed fronting events, craft afternoons, field trips, roller skating, night hikes. Taking advantage of our local community is beautiful here. We have a Seymour Center, which is a very small version of the Monterey Bay Aquarium, for those of you who are aware of that. And you can pet a little shark to enjoying our beautiful redwood forest that we are nestled within. So we have tons of things planned, both for folks who like to be out and about, as well as maybe folks who just want to sit around a table and play tabletop games as well. But one thing we want to stress too is that because we are still in the midst of a pandemic, we are planning events along our safety guidelines that are evolving like the pandemic is. And so we ask that as you come to campus and as you engage with us and engage with your peers in person, just be mindful that we will have expectations and ask of our students as well as our staff to keep everyone safe. I will be dropping in the chat some of the things I mentioned we are planning, as well as some things to do in and around Santa Cruz if you are visiting us prior to your arrival on campus.
Thanks, Maya. Chris, you want to talk about residential education and housing?
Of course. Thanks, Alex. Hi again, everybody. As I mentioned, my role here at Crown and Merrell is being a coordinator for residential education, which means I'm one of the live-on staff that lives here on campus. I also help oversee our resident assistant staff, which are student leaders we hire every year to basically be a resource here for your students. One of the benefits of being in the college system is that your residential experience is tied to your college. So we are excited to have you all here within about, well, almost 6 weeks from now. So we are excited to have you here moving in. After a year of having very little students here, we're excited to have everybody back. Something I want to mention is that move-in for first-year students will be occurring on September 16th and 17th. Details on how to sign up for a move-in time and more details on move-in will be sent out to all students via their UCSC email in a couple weeks. So we encourage your students to please check your emails because I'll have all the information they need in terms of how to move into campus. One of the other things I would like to mention is that, like I mentioned, like we have an RA staff here, a resident assistant staff. They are trained by us to be a support system for all our students living on campus. So please don't hesitate if you're to tell your students to get a hold of their RA once they move in, to talk to their RA if they ever have an issue they want to talk about, they are trained in a variety of resources to support them, as well as we have coordinators here that are there for safety and security and for the well-being of our students. And of course, our housing office is located within our colleges as well as an additional support.
Thanks, Chris. If you want to go to the next slide, there are just some other pieces of information that can be helpful for you all as family members. So as you've heard from now a few of our staff, it's important for students to check their UCSC email account. That is where they get their official information about all kinds of things, advising, class related, and housing if they're coming into on-campus housing, and student life related. So it's important to be checking that account, and also to be checking spam, because sometimes things go into spam, and we don't want them to miss out on particular activities or things because it was in the spam folder rather than in the inbox. It's also important that students are working on their ID card. So I think ID card services should have made a request for students to send a photo that will end up on their ID cards. And for a lot of students, ID cards are their keys. It could be their way into the dining hall, into the library, into athletics and recreation, onto the public transit, because as part of their fees, it is included as a bus pass. So we want students to have their ID cards as soon as they arrive. And the way to do that is to make sure that they have their photo into ID card services so that their ID cards will be ready. And then for you all, we usually talk about FERPA, and if you're not familiar with FERPA, it's the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. And essentially what it says is that when your students are enrolled here at UCSC, that they are in charge of their educational record. And so that means the information about them here is in their control. And so we inevitably have parents and or family members who are like, well, I'd like to know their grades, or I'd like to know about their conduct record, and we're not really able to share that information. And so at this point in time, and particularly if they're with you and maybe just down the hallway, when you're asking them information that's easy to find, and that's harder once they get here. And we have had pretty much every year a situation where students will be super excited and they'll come to campus and their families will not hear from them for a little while, and then they'll ask us to find them, which we will do, but we won't necessarily be able to tell you anything. So this is a perfect time for you to have the conversation and figure out how often and in what ways you want communication. So if that's text messages or FaceTime or Zoom, or if it's email, or you want to look at their grades or whatever that is, it's good to have that conversation now while you're still together. Next slide. Is this the important date slide? Just because I lost my slide somewhere along the way. Is it the, yes. Let's make sure I didn't lose track of something.
The only thing you missed on the slide before was the ID cards.
Nope, I talked about that.
Then never mind, you didn't miss anything. This is correct.
Your current slide is talking about COVID, Alex.
Yeah. Okay, so as Maya said, we, as everyone else is, are still in the midst of working through how to be as safe as possible, and COVID-19 is still a thing. So as policies change across the UC system or in the state, we are doing our best to keep up with that and to keep people as safe as possible. So as students get closer to the time when they will be joining us on campus, we'll be sure to share what policies and practices we have in place. But again, as Maya said, our goal is to keep people as safe as possible. And in the last year, we've had a really low rate of students contracting COVID on campus. Actually, it was extremely low. They didn't contract it at all on campus. They often contracted it somewhere else. And we'd like to stay that way. So there will be masking policies, I'm certain. We will be talking about distancing and vaccines and things, but we're not sure. Not all of those plans yet are quite set. But as they are, we will be sharing that information with students. Okay, so then our last slide is about some of the important dates. And there's an academic calendar, there's a housing calendar, there's all sorts of stuff that you can find online. But a couple of the important dates, as Chris mentioned, we have our move-in scheduled for September 16th and 17th. And we ask that once students move onto campus, that they actually stay with us. So we have activities planned from move-in until classes begin and beyond, to help students to figure out campus and the surrounding community. And we need time to be able to do that all together. So once they're here, we like them to be here. We also tend to focus on the first 6 weeks of helping with the adjustment period. So if students can plan to stay here during that time, I think that would be great and great for them as well. We have some of the winter break and winter instruction dates and also for spring. And also of note, so Family Day is an activity we've been doing now for over a decade, where we invite families to campus. And actually last year we had our first virtual Family Day, to just check in and talk and see, you know, how things are going and hear more about what your students have been doing. So if you want to put February 5th on your calendar, that is often fun and interesting. Okay, so now I know that we've been seeing some questions in the chat. Beth and Kathy, do you want to talk about some of the questions that you've been getting in there and some of your answers?
I actually don't, and maybe Cassie, maybe you've seen something. I have not actually seen any academic ones. They've more been about move-in and room for surfboards and things like that in in residence halls.
Okay, all right.
Lots of questions about mini fridges.
Oh, okay. Excellent. So if you do have questions about academic life or student life, feel free to put it in the chat or raise your hand and we will do our best to answer them. I see one about if all freshmen take Crown 1 in the fall or Merrell 1.
Oh, yes, but I forgot to mention that this year we're also having a 1-unit class in the summer that combines an introduction to academic life and an introduction to core. But yes, all fresh take core in the fall.
Awesome. Chris, do you want to answer some of the residential type questions you've been seeing?
Yeah, so I saw several questions that I'll answer in order. In terms of moving in on Saturday, we highly do recommend that students move in on the 16th and 17th, mainly because those are the days dedicated to first-year students. If for some reason you can't, we will drop the information to our Crown Merrell housing office email, and you can work with our housing coordinator to give that information. We do have study lounges within the college itself that are available for students to study. In fact, some of our study areas at Crown recently got renovated with new furniture. Merrell's is getting their new furniture this month, so be on the lookout for that as you're moving on. And finally, in terms of micro fridges, there are recommended sizes, but if you are going to get a mini fridge and a microwave, we do recommend that you do the ones that are through that rental company, mainly because you do not want to be that student that overextends our power grid and causes your power to go out, not only in your room, but your neighboring rooms as well.
I wanted to mention that, yeah, the provosts have been responding to the question about core class being remote or in person, but I think that's like a good larger segue into if you have any questions about whether your classes are in person or remote, the discussion sections, please contact Merrell or Crown Advising, because we can definitely help with navigating what format your classes are in, as well as if you have like preferences or needs around whether to be taking in-person or remote classes. So please contact Advising for those kinds of questions, especially if they're getting more specific.
Just seeing the chat, some other questions regarding housing. Wi-Fi has, we do have robust Wi-Fi coverage in our residence halls. They recently went through some renovations for Wi-Fi in our residence hall, so you have easy access to Wi-Fi. Our housing is open during the Thanksgiving break. There are limited food options to keep that in mind. And in terms of payment for living here on campus, depending on the plan that you choose, you can either pay monthly or per quarter, or if you have financial aid will take care of that for you.
So if you have questions about billing, you can contact Student Business Services. It's probably a good place to go. Elizabeth, it looks like there was a question about getting a better sense of what the Merrell core course looks like.
Sure, I could give a brief overview of the Merrell core course. I'm sure that Manel, before I got here, Manel explained what the core courses were generally. Merrell's core course adheres to the same expectations of all the core courses in that it focuses on fundamental transferable skills. We focus on analysis, critical thinking, metacognition, engagement with others across difference, and self-efficacy. But topically, the course is interested in broad questions of social justice. And what that means in specific is that we will be looking at some big theoretical questions about identity and ethnicity, about discourse communities and so on, and what that means in terms of actual things that students will be reading. They'll be reading Brian Stevenson's excellent book on called Just Mercy. They'll be reading a sequence of short packets of information about different cases of environmental justice or injustice, as the case may be. Really, especially what students will be doing is focusing on how they learn how to think about those issues, and transferably about big questions in academia more generally. So they'll be working in collaborative groups on some very unusual kinds of assignments that are meant to build their skills in developing analytical skills about big questions, big problems, challenges, and so on. And they'll be working really frequently together with other students to develop their collaborative critical thinking skills. So that's kind of a big general overview, but I find the class really fun to teach and really enjoy working with students.
Great, thanks, Elizabeth.
Can we get a reminder of when people will hear about their roommate assignments?
Sometime during mid-August, so in a couple of weeks. We know that our housing coordinators are working very hard to finish up assignments. If first-year students miss that, pick their room choice date, housing coordinators have been working with all our students to get those assignments finalized. So just in a couple of weeks, we just ask to be a little bit patient. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Hey, Maya, I think there was something about getting involved. So do you want to talk a little bit about SOAR and cornucopia?
Well, I want to hold off on that since planning is shifting with that, but we traditionally have on campus a huge event called Cornucopia, in which most of the registered clubs and organizations, which usually have around 400, are out on our lawn, our athletics and rec lawn, that beautiful green space that if you see the iconic Monterey Bay with the deer on it, that's where folks usually gather. And students have an afternoon of just walking around, meeting other students, learning about clubs and organizations. We're figuring out where the location will be this year to make it safest. And we hope to have more information soon. But I also want to really stress what was shared earlier, that some clubs and organizations may not be at SOAR because of the nature of that club's focus. So we also have a lot of amazing clubs and organizations that are tied to students' majors that do not start until the second or third week of the quarter, as well as our resource centers, our ethnic resource centers, Women's Center, and Cantu Queer Center have a phenomenal list of student support opportunities and leadership roles available, and their clubs and organizations also tend to start a little bit later in the year too. But I cannot stress enough to check your emails, and also all of the Instagram pages for our resource centers, our student clubs and organizations, even our School of Engineering will start posting in the next few weeks. And in late September, the club and organizations that are available to students. So keep posted, and parents, you can join in the fun too and join the Instagram as well and see all the fun stuff that's going on too. The students really check your emails.
Great, thanks. Chris, you want to talk about bathrooms and laundry or internet?
Yeah, and thanks for posting that information about Resonant and EduRoam. Since all of our buildings are Wi-Fi capable and routers have been installed near each room, there is no need to bring in an Ethernet cable to campus. And we do not allow personalized routers for students to bring on campus. In terms of how bathrooms work, most of your students will be living in residential halls, which are your traditional residential buildings with communal bathrooms. During those first few days, your resident assistant will go over community guidelines on how to use those restrooms. And in terms of laundry rooms, we do have laundry spaces in each of our residential buildings. You do not need to have cash or coins. It's all used by debit or credit card. You can, if your student has one of those, they can use that, or you can buy a preload debit card to use for our machines.
Thanks, Chris.
The next couple questions have been kind of probably in y'all's housing wheelhouse as well, about safe boxes, lockers for valuables, and can people move on the 18th instead of 16 or 17?
Great. So yeah, we don't provide safes or lockers for students. I think sometimes students will bring like a personal sized safe if they want to. And then in terms of the move-in, part of what we need to try to do is move essentially 9,000 people onto campus in the safest way possible. And so we need to spread people out, and we're trying to bring people in cohorts, which is why we have the first year students scheduled at the moment for September 16th and 17th. There's a different group of students, transfer students, who are scheduled for the 18th, and continuing students on the 19th. So if at all possible, we want you to stick to those dates, although you'll have the opportunity, as Chris was saying, in a couple of weeks to choose a move-in time. And so, or your students will have the opportunity to do that. So there's some flexibility there. But if you really cannot make that, then you'll have to contact the housing office to see what other arrangements can be made. There's a question about
parents can also help in with move-in. Once the move-in information is released, we will probably also have parameters on how many people you'll be able to have you assist because of COVID. And so once that information's out, that information should be attached with it as well.
Definitely.
And also Crown and Merrell will offer some snacks so to meet the provost as you leave.
It's true. We're big on snacks here at Crown and Merrell, in fact, because everybody's hungry at one point or another. So we'll usually have some kind of snacks probably in the morning, and then again an opportunity for folks to meet with our provosts and be able to enjoy a little bit of downtime before heading out again. And I think there's a question about locks and laptop locks. I think that it's not, usually they're not locked to the inside a drawer, but it's more that we've had the kind that's a cable that you can connect to the desk so that it keeps the laptop attached. And yes, every student will have their own desk. Each student gets a complement of furniture, actually. That's usually how that works.
Also, real quick, I got a direct message, and I think it's one that could apply to anyone on here. They were asking, they're going to be in Santa Cruz later this month, and we're curious about taking a tour of campus, or who might be around at Crown and Merrell for that. I'll obviously let some more of our live on campus folks chat a little more about that. But as far as advising staff, we are currently focusing on remote advising. When it gets closer to the start of the quarter, we will be more in person, and we will be there assisting you with in-person appointments, but currently we are not there. However, campus does have a lot of easy to explore areas. I'm not sure if provost or anybody wants to chat a little bit about maybe visiting campus before the quarter starts.
I dropped in the chat our interactive campus maps and directions, so you're more than welcome to print some of the maps off before you leave, but I also do encourage you to check the campus and the local Santa Cruz safety guidelines around mask use or face covering use and social distancing. But we'd love to have you visit. I'm on campus now. There are tons of people walking by my office window, so please come. Be happy to see you if we're around. Wave to you between the windows.
Absolutely. Although if you're looking to get inside the residence halls, currently they're not open. Do you want to talk a little bit about dining, Chris?
Yeah, and thanks, Cassie, for posting the dining website. Crown Merrell does have its own localized dining hall, which, and I'm being biased, it's probably the best dining hall on campus, with the best salad bar on campus. During move-in and during during welcome week, we will have an extended schedule for dining options, but during the school year, we do have a time for breakfast, a time for lunch, a time for dinner, and then some time in between, like if you want to just grab something from the dining hall. And then of course, during the weekends, we have a brunch and dinner schedule. But that information will be posted once it's updated. And in terms to answer, you chose a spot in room A. That's just an A spot in my room. Beds are assigned basically first come, first serve in terms of which bed. If your student chose like, oh, designate A, B, or C, that's just for our purposes in our system to designate the actual spot in the room. But in terms of bed, first come, first serve, or communicate with your roommates in terms of what bed you want. Do you want the lofted bed? Do you want the bunk bed? Do you want the bottom bunk? We encourage that communication to happen early on.
Excellent.
Chris, do you also want to talk about desk chairs and furniture, different furniture in the space versus what the campus provides? So if a student wants to bring their own desk chair.
Alex, I leave that to you.
Okay, sure. Well, so as we were mentioning a little earlier, there is a complement of furniture for each student, and the space is somewhat limited, so you're not really able to take out the furniture that we provide. If you want to bring something in addition, you're welcome to do that, but you may find that it gets a little crowded. So you might want to wait until after you've brought all of your things initially to determine whether or not you want to add to it or keep it the way that it is.
We have another dining question. Yes, there are options for vegan, vegetarian, and pescatarian is what I'm assuming is on the spelling. And if for some reason there's a dietary need that isn't covered by dining, we do have a nutritionist on campus that could work with your student to support their food needs. What items for your personal? Again, during spring break, we are still open. So if your student wants to leave their stuff here or stay here, they can. During winter break, we encourage to take what they need back. Like Our residence halls will be closed and secured during the winter break. So if they want to leave like some clothing behind, they are more than welcome to, but anything that they need, so medication, important documents, probably their laptop, they should take that with them.
Absolutely. Yeah, and again, for the ID cards, we're encouraging students to send their photos so that it'll be ready for them upon move-in. And because in many of the spaces, the ID card is actually the key to get into their room. If they're living on campus, when they check in, they'll be getting the ID card because they're going to need it to get inside. And yes, there'll be a recording. So we'll be taking one recording because we had 2 sessions and posting it online. We're not necessarily emailing that out, but it'll be available probably in the next week or so.
I've seen a couple folks throughout the session ask just specifically if bikes are allowed in rooms themselves or just in the locks, I think is what I'm understanding the questions to be.
Yeah, so bikes are allowed in the rooms, although depending on how many people are in a room and how much stuff they're bringing with them, that may seem a little crowded. So we do have some bike racks that are outside, some with nice little new roofs that are on there that students can use to lock their bikes up. And one of the things that we have often said is that if your students are not already sort of avid cyclists, you might want to hold off on bringing a bike until you see the campus because it's pretty hilly. And for folks who like to do what is it, mountain biking, like it's beautiful, but like for me that would never ever happen because I'm not sure I would make it from the base of campus all the way up to Crown. So it's just one of those things to try to get a sense of perhaps before bringing the bike. Okay, I think we're coming to the end of our time. Are there any other questions that haven't been asked yet? One of the things that we haven't mentioned are that the provosts, at least in the pre-COVID times, were happy to have some visitors because they have pets. Because sometimes students will miss their pets at home when they come and feel a little bit homesick. Yep, a dog and a cat at the Merrell Provost House. And students, the contract for living on campus is for a year. So it'll go from September, basically on that important date slide, till June. And then everyone moves out, and then new people will move in to the space the next year. So even if you would come back for a second year, it's probably into a different space.
I can quickly answer the question about transcripts, and then it looks like there is a flurry of other little random questions as well. If you're talking about transcripts from community college classes that you were maybe taking during high school or even right now, the transfer credit from those classes probably won't be in the system for a couple months. So you may just have to wait on that. But if there's a specific concern about it being in sooner or needing it in sooner, please let your advisors know about that. I don't want to get too much more specific than that because it may just depend on the situation. So hit up Crown Advising or Merrell Advising and we'll help you out.
Also, another academic question came in just while we're on the subject, asking about students not being able to get into core because of a hold. It's actually not a hold situation. Likely it's because you came in with so many amazing credits from high school, and your college advisors can assist you with that. So just email us either at Crown Advising or Merrell Advising, and we will make sure you get into your core class, excuse me.
I can say about the Merrell core course, students may have experienced inability to sign up for their Merrell core class if their sign up day was yesterday. But rest assured, there will be spaces available for every student at Merrell College. We've just got, we just weren't able to open all the spaces. We've got a couple of special sections that have kind of independent enrollment requirements. So there will be a space for every single person. And when you return on August 9th, you'll be able to find a seat.
Yeah, and core class is Merrell 1 or Crown 1, in case anyone was confused about that.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Thanks. Yeah, we use those interchangeably for those of us who have been here for a little while. If you have specific questions about your assignment, your room assignment, and a situation that you have there, it's best to contact Crown Merrell Housing at ucsc.edu to talk to our housing coordinator. And I know there was a question in there about security cameras. We don't have security cameras inside the residence halls, but they are at the outside doors to many of them, not for the smaller buildings. And we didn't really talk about this, but we do have community safety officers who work from 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. every day, all year round, and are here for students who are in need of, who are either feeling like they have a safety or security kind of question or concern, and they're also in the area, so they're totally available for students to talk to. And yes, we'll have, I think I saw a question about orientation activities. So from move-in until the start of classes, we have Welcome Week. That's the set of activities that'll be going on during that time. But then with Maya and our programming staff and Chris and our residential staff, there are activities that will be happening all throughout the year.
I can address the question about should all Frosh have their fall schedules by now. So many of you were able to enroll this past week, but you will have another chance if you either didn't enroll this past week or you didn't fully enroll. Everyone's enrollment is going to open back up on August 9th. So please, if you weren't able to enroll or you didn't enroll in all of your classes, email Crown and Merrell Advising. We keep saying this, but it's true. That's the best way to get in touch with us, and we will be able to help you this next week, even figuring out what classes to enroll in, or anything about classes or enrollment. Crown and Merrell Advising are the place to go.
And to piggyback on that and to kind of follow up on some of the questions that I've had going on in here, if a class is full, again, if it is your Crown 1 or Merrell 1, email us. Make sure, we are kind of in the loop with that. Or like Elizabeth said, with Merrell 1, more seats will be opening up on August 9th. But otherwise, if it is a class that we do not offer, like physics or math or things like that, please email us if you have concerns about your schedule. If, of course, you need is full, we're happy to help out. Otherwise, keep checking. More seats may open, they may not, but waitlisting will also be available starting on August 9th for those courses as well.
There is a question about, can I change my housing assignment after I see it initially? So
So my answer, that was my answer towards the contact Crown Merrell Housing at ucsc.edu if you have a specific question about your specific housing assignment. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Maya.
A pet hamster is okay. Just touch base with your roommates.
No.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Maya, no.
No.
Okay.
A fish in a small tank, I forgot the size of it, but other than that, no.
I like the idea of Maya caring for everyone's hamsters.
There you go.
Right.
If you want to give Maya your pet hamster to watch when she get here to campus, then just go ahead and contact her at Maddie Hearn at ucsc.edu.
Yes. You can find me on the Crown website. I love all animals. Yes.
Absolutely. Yes.
But we do have turkeys and raccoons and deer that you can name on campus. So. Sorry about that. And my heart feels for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Welcome Week schedule. So
the Welcome Week schedule is in process. There's a collaborative effort amongst campus colleagues and CARE and Title IX, our academic advising, as well as sister college peers, Crown and Merrell, are working together. But hopefully when you get here, Rachel, you'll stay here you'll stay here throughout the first 3 weeks to get acclimated. Yes. And so as soon as you arrive on campus, that's when Welcome Week starts for you. And Welcome Week officially is from the time you move in until Wednesday, September 23rd. Classes start on the 24th. And we'll have then also programs and events throughout the quarter.
And I
If
think
you're
that-
a remote student, good question,
Yeah.
Beth. If you're a remote student, we will be doing events in a hybrid fashion, both in person and virtually, because we do recognize that although we'll have a lot more students on campus this year, we are anticipating and know just by lack of physical space and limitations with housing, a lot of our students will not be on campus or even the Santa Cruz area. So please know we're not forgetting about you. Again, for example, for the Crown Student Senate, your student government crownies, we're holding our fall meetings online on Zoom to make sure everybody will have access to those meetings, and we'll have lots of other things as well. That's going to be in a hybrid or virtual format.
Yeah, and what I was going to say, and it looks like, Rachel, you're actually a parent and not a student. So yes, the Welcome Week events are designed for the students, and you'll know your student best. Like if you feel like there's a need to stay somewhere in the area for a couple of days, you have to do what you think is going to work best with your student. But for the students who are here in person, we do have activities that will begin for them. Yeah, Beth, it's a beautiful, like, clearly people come here to visit, so it's a beautiful place to see. Okay, well, if you have other questions, please feel free to contact us either by email or by phone. We look forward to seeing you and your students in a very short 6 weeks, as Chris was mentioning. And we are excited to be starting anew with your group of students. So thank you for joining us again. We appreciate it, and we hope that this was helpful for you, and we will see you soon. See you later.